All right, guys, so welcome to another fantastic day of Computer Science 1, Critical Thinking. And we're going to be continuing our Philosophy of Science thread today. It's our third out of three. And we're going to be talking about three different kinds of reasoning today. We already know one of them, which will make that one easy. And this will tie in with your capstone essay. Your capstone essay will require you to use all three forms of reasoning. It's 10% of your grade. It'll be due at the beginning of finals week. So you got a little bit of time to write it, 4 pages, 10% of your grade. So make sure you pay attention today. Because if you don't understand the difference of these three forms of reasoning, that's, I think, 15 out of the 20 points on the thing. So, you're going to be sad if you don't get a good grade on that. So today's lecture, pretty important. All right. So first form of reasoning, like I said, you already know it. This is the reasoning we were using earlier in the semester. If x, then y, x is true, therefore y is true. Modus ponens. If x, then y is false, therefore x is false. Modus tollens. It's deductive reasoning. Deductive reasoning is certain. The conclusion must be true if you have a valid argument. The conclusion must be true when the premises are true. Right? Or I didn't say that right. If the premises are true, then the conclusion must absolutely be true. You can be certain, 100% certain, or as certain as as humanly possible when you have a deductive argument. Okay. Is there supposed to be a stream? I guess so. Yeah, why not? Here we go. All right. You could just listen to my dulcet voice instead. So we are going to be, staring at this thing here. And we say squares are regular 2D polygons with 4 equal sides. Premise, I am looking at a regular 2D polygon with 4 equal sides. I actually don't think that is I think it's a rectangle. Come to think of it. Conclusion, I'm looking at a square. Okay. So this is deductive reasoning. Truth tables, deductive reasoning. And then fallacies are problems with deductive reasoning, right? Affirming the consequent, denying the antecedent are all deductive reasoning failures, let's say. Okay. And so with deductive reasoning, you basically set up a series of premises and a conclusion that absolutely follows from the premises, if the logic is valid. And then if you can show the premises are true, then you know that the conclusion absolutely 100% or as close to 100% as humanly possible must be true as well. 2 + 2 = 4. You can be as confident in that as you can be confident in anything. And there's always the possibility that you're having a stroke or something, and your math centers aren't working right in your brain or something. But if you're confident of anything, you can be confident of deductive reasoning. It is very certain. So if x then y, if y then z, x is true, therefore z is true. This is a valid argument. Now you guys tell me valid, invalid, or sound. Right? Is this invalid? Is it valid but not sound, or is it valid and sound? All mammals have hair. Premise 1. Premise 2, all cats are mammals. Tobey Maguire is a cat. Therefore, Tobey Maguire has hair. So premise 1, premise 2, premise 3, and a conclusion that follows from the 3 premises. Is this PowerPoint uploaded to files on Canvas? It is. All of my PowerPoints are on Canvas. Yes. And you can review it at your leisure. It's a great question. Yes, this argument is in fact valid, but not sound. So why is it not sound? It's valid because you have a set. All members of that set have a property. All cats are members of that set. Tobey Maguire is a member of that set, which is a member of that set through transitive. And so Tobey Maguire has the property hair. Tobey Maguire isn't a cat. He's Spider-Man. Not anymore. What if there was a cat named Tobey Maguire? No, I'm kidding. Tobey Maguire isn't a cat. He's part Spider-Man. It's funny. Tobey Maguire could be a different mammal. Yeah. He's got that dog in him. Yeah, no, Tobey Maguire, like if there was a cat somewhere named Tobey Maguire, that's the level of hair splitting I don't care about in this class. I'm obviously referring to the actor Tobey Maguire, who is most famous for his back injury. So, inductive reasoning is different. So inductive reasoning is the form of reasoning we use in science. So in science, what we do is we make a bunch of observations about the world. We pick up a pin and we drop it and we measure how long it takes to fall. And then we do the same. We do a bunch of experiments. We gather a bunch of data. And then we create a generalized model, is what we call it, of how gravity works or how electricity works or how not inductive reasoning, like an inductor works. Like if you guys have ever seen like wireless chargers, right? Those are inductive charging. Completely unrelated. Maybe I should put that on the midterm. I'm gonna make a note of that. Okay. Inductive charging, inductive reasoning. There you go. There's a final question for you guys. It'll be an equivocation fallacy. Okay. So inductive reasoning is arguing about the future based on experiences in the past. So what you do in science is you gather a bunch of data, you build a model, and you use that to predict the future. If I were to drop this pin, it'll fall and hit the ground in 2.1 seconds or whatever. That is essentially what science does. Science is about predictions of the future, and ideally we want to make predictions as accurately as possible. Inductive reasoning is we look at the past to determine how the future works. Okay? And you could be wrong. Like, this is one of the problems with inductive reasoning, and one of the problems with science is that you can be wrong. Just because, every time I've dropped something in the past, it takes 2.1 seconds. What if I drop something and there's like a magnetic field or something and it slows it down somewhat, and it takes 2.3 seconds, your model might not account for that or something, right? And so science is less certain than logic. I woke up late for the past week, so tomorrow I will wake up late. Yeah, and maybe you won't. Like, maybe you will hear a cat meowing at your open window in the middle of the night, which is what happened to me last night, which is why I'm kind of tired right now. I was going to sleep and I'm hearing meowing. I'm like, what the hell is going on here? I go and I had my window open, and this stray cat, had its face right there, like, hello, how are you? Feed me. I'm like, it's 1 a.m. You close the window. Go ahead. Let him in. He wanted in. He most definitely wanted in. He knows we love it and it's warm inside and stuff like that. We made a little cat box for him to sleep in and put out a water bowl for the stray and stuff like that. But yeah, he was doing inductive reasoning too. In the past, this human has fed me. Therefore, in the future, this human will feed me. And this human was tired and was like having none of that. Like, come back in the morning. We're closed right now. So he belongs to you now. We belong to him, I think, is the more proper way of putting that. He has adopted us, but it's more like we work for him. I don't know. Super cute cat though, so well worth it. Cat has big brain, yeah, and like another cat in the neighborhood used inductive reasoning. Every time there's a car idling, this is during the pandemic. Every time there's a car idling in front of the house, DoorDash will appear. And so this cat learned that that every time there's a car idling, somebody's going to bring food in. And so the cat started sitting in, different cat, by the way, different neighborhood cat. It just starts sitting in our driveway, and he'd just sit there and he'd just sniff at all the food coming past, like, salad. No, I'm all right. And wander off. But then he's like, oh, look at that. Chicken Waldorf salad. And then the person would drop off the DoorDash, and the cat would run up, pull the DoorDash over, pull the container of chicken Waldorf salad out with its teeth, pop the lid open, and start eating it. And I know this because I caught it on my security camera, right? And this monster is purring to itself. It's so happy with itself. It's like, yes, I am the smartest cat. I am the smartest cat ever. Check me out. It's like purring the little furry psychopath's like, look at me, I'm eating the human's food. And I come out and darts into the bushes. I'm like, what the hell's going on here? And I clean it up, and I watch on the security camera later. The cat's just in the bush watching me the whole time. You just see its eyes reflecting, And then I go back inside to get like a broom, and it darts out and like eats a tater tot or something, and like darts back in the bushes when I come out. Like, these cats are smart, man. And it's using inductive reasoning. And so, I would idle in front of my own house, and I would see this cat come running up, and he would just sit there and just be like, What's on the menu today? Inductive reasoning. Past experience guiding predictions for the future. And so, one of my students last semester made a game in my game development class, because I teach game development. He made a game called Meow Dash, and in Meow Dash, it randomly generates a house, and you're at your office, and he actually took, I actually sent him photographs of my office here, and so it has the things back here, and there's a ding dong, and then you have to run through this randomly generated house to get to the front door to get your DoorDash. And there's a cat that's basically on a track, and the cat's just kind of sliding forward. It's not animated. It's hilarious. It's just a cat, and it just is sliding forward at the door. And you have to run through the house and pick up the DoorDash before the cat gets to the door, or you lose. It's amazing. So, yeah, even cats can do inductive reasoning, right? Now, the problem with this is that you could be wrong, right? And so the most famous example of the problem of induction is a story by the name of Bertrand Russell, who's one of the fathers of computer science. And he said, look, turkeys at a turkey farm probably have pretty good opinions of a farmer, right? He feeds them, he gives them food, he gives them water, he gives them shelter. When they get hurt, he takes care of them. And so over time, they build up faith, they build up trust, because faith essentially means trust, right? And so they build faith in the farmer. And then, one day around Thanksgiving time, they're like, it's kind of weird. A lot of our friends are going into that shack over there, and none of them are coming out. It's a little sus, And then your friends are like, I don't know, dude. This guy's proven to be trustworthy. We should go in there. And yeah, rip, exactly. So it's just because in the past he's been nice to you, when the imposter is sus. Which, yeah. So, just because this guy has been trustworthy in the past doesn't mean he's going to be trustworthy in the future. I have a friend that, picks me up at the airport, every time, and he shows up on time. So I build faith in him that he'll pick me up on time in the future, but he could forget someday. It could happen. He might do what happened to me, which is I was driving down the street, and there was a box that just said nails on it, like in a Wile E. Coyote cartoon, just said nails, like a white box of nails, and it shattered all over the road, and I just had to drive over it, and I picked up a nail, obviously, in my tire. Only one, which was amazing. But it could happen to him. He might be driving down the road, and he drives over a bed of nails and blows out his tire. It can happen. Just because he's been pretty good in the past doesn't mean he's going to be reliable in the future. But it's our best guess, right? And that's really what inductive reasoning is. Big old Acme logo on and everything. Yeah, essentially, it was literally just out of a cartoon. And so the and so what's important is that it's not unwarranted, right? I have a good reason to believe my friend will show up on time, because he's proven himself, right? We have evidence for it. And likewise, the people who was it? I woke up late for the past week, so tomorrow I'll wake up late. Jaden. If you have a friend that always sleeps in, that's always showing up late to events, then it's not unreasonable to assume they're going to do the same thing in the future. In fact, we had one friend that showed up so late to every event we had. It wasn't just late; it was 3 hours late. Just he would leave his house an hour late, and then on the way he would stop to get boba for us. And then, I don't know, watch a movie. I don't even know how but it was 3 hours late every time. And so we'd start a game at 4, and he would show up at 7. And then we would have to play till 11, and I don't know, how do you, he would text me when he's leaving. He's like, I'm leaving now. And maybe he was lying about that. I don't know. But he's like, I'm getting boba now. What do you want? I'm like, give me I don't know, black tea pudding, quarter sweet, quarter ice. And he'd show up with the boba. So he wasn't lying about the boba, but how did it take 2 hours to get 15? I don't know. But so what we ended up doing is we would just invite him for 1 o'clock, So if our thing started at 4 o'clock, we'd invite him for 1 o'clock, and then he'd show up on time. So, and you know what I mean? That's inductive reasoning, right? Based on our past experience, he shows up 3 hours late to something, and then enough time to watch Cocaine Bear, the hit movie. Yeah, which I put into my final last year, or the midterm last year. and so based our inductive reasoning is like, let's invite him for 1. He'll show up at 4, and then we can start on time. And that actually worked. Like he actually started showing up on time when we just invited him 3 hours early. But then one day he showed up like on time, or like on time for him, which would be like 1 hour late instead of 3 hours late. And then he's like, wait a second, nobody's here. I see what you're doing. And then he started like, like, okay, so you're inviting me 3 hours early, so the actual time is 3 hours later, so I'm going to show up at 7 o'clock again. And then we had to invite him for 11 a.m. And it was this arms race between, when he actually showed up, it's like, wait, nobody's here. Like, I know you're early. It's like, I don't know how to process this early, thing. So next time shows will 3 hours before. Yeah, it's exactly what we did, and that's all inductive reasoning. It's based on past performance. Then, we predicted the future. Okay, but it's a guess, right? It's a guess. You can't be certain. And the trouble with this is like this is a real problem for like in a lot of situations. You check rate my professor and rate my exactly YMT. You check rate my professor and it's like, oh, this professor's amazing. But then when you take that professor, maybe that professor's friend just died or something, and he's just all bummed out and not having a good time. It can happen. Like there's no guarantee that just because somebody has a good rating on rate my professor that they're going to give you good instruction. And food inspection, right? Like if you are a food inspector, like food crosses the border, you randomly sample the lettuce coming across, and you test it for E. coli, and it all passes. You let it through, but then 2 of them of the 1,000 actually had E. coli on them. You didn't get lucky. You didn't sample them properly, and it killed a couple of people. Like it happens. Like there's no great answer to that because all you can do is just sample and hope that you enough are contaminated that your sample would pick it up. But if only a couple are, not a whole lot you can do about that. You're pulling jelly beans from a barrel of jelly beans. You keep eating the jelly beans, you get more and more confident because you keep eating lemon lime. You keep eating lemon lime flavored jelly beans. Right? This is a barrel of jelly beans that are all lemon lime flavored, but one of them is the Bernie Bott's booger flavor jelly bean, and you're wrong. And so one day you're unpleasantly surprised. That's the problem of induction. You can become very confident in something and then be unpleasantly surprised. Okay? Needle in a haystack, yeah. And that's something that science just doesn't deal very well with, right? Like science can't say there are no Bernie Bott's booger flavor jelly beans in here because in order to do so, you would have to sample, you'd have to eat all of them, and then there's nothing left to make a prediction on. You know what I mean? Like you could test all of the lettuce and destroy all of the lettuce coming in, but now there's no product to sell, right? You're like, we did it, Patrick. We saved the village by destroying it, right? Like you could destroy all of the lettuce and test all of it, but now there's no lettuce to sell. So it's sort of an inescapable problem in science, okay? And so there's a lot of things you do in life where you're making predictions about the future. You make assumptions about how the future is going to be, right? Like right now, you guys are all in college. And so you're making a prediction. Like what are you predicting? Like, when you graduate, what assumptions are you making about what the world's going to be like when you finish college? And why are you in college? Like, do you guys understand? Like, answer on chat. Like, when you slap down money to a college, you are banking on your future, right? You are making a prediction about the future. What prediction are you guys making? What assumptions are you making about the world when it's, let's just say you guys are graduating in 3 years or something. What predictions are you making about the world? Why are you doing this? Why are you here? This is a great critical thinking question. Why are you here? What are we doing here? What's our meaning? You will have better job opportunities than if you didn't go to college. Yeah, and you don't know that, right? It seems reasonable. Like it seems, based on past performance, people who go to college make more money, but there's no guarantee it'll be that way in the future, right? The world's going to be older by 3 years. Yeah, that seems pretty reasonable. You'll have a good job in the future, okay? Bettering your future, all right? That you will have a job lined up afterwards. Open more opportunities to ourselves and others. Piece of paper ensures financial security and a safety net in most cases. I want to know more stuff and have more options in life. Yeah, but like what, because we're talking about the problem of induction. So you are betting that in the future, the world's going to be what? Like, what if there was a nuclear apocalypse, right? Your college education isn't going to be as useful as if you went to, like, I don't know, hunter-gatherer school, right? I want to know more stuff and have more options in life. Sure, that's great. That's a great reason to be here. We're going to do what we want to do in life. It'll make us happy. That's a great reason to be here, too. I'm in college gaining knowledge, skills, and even discover what I want to be. Most of this probably won't happen in retrospect. Maybe. I don't know. You'll know how to use Scratch. Yeah, I know, right? Like when the radioactive ghouls need programming done, you can do it in Scratch, right? And we're going to talk about our next programming assignment on Wednesday. I'm in college to be successful in life. Okay. Want to have more time before adulting. Better job opportunities. Finally get out of retail. Yeah, that's fair. I hated working at Dairy Queen. It wasn't the worst thing in the world, but man, like I don't like working with random people from the public coming in. Yeah, but like you're making a certain assumption, gain knowledge, okay, but you're making a certain assumption that like the rules that apply today are going to apply in 3 years. Like, what about ChatGPT? Like, you're going to assume that ChatGPT hasn't replaced all of the jobs in 3 or 4 years, right? You're going to assume the world is in a radioactive wasteland. You're assuming that you're still going to be alive and healthy. You're assuming that you don't have, family problems that cause you to drop out. Like, there's a lot of assumptions that, like, you bake into your college experience, right? You're assuming the world is going to be roughly the same in 4 years that it is today, right? Because today, yeah, if you have a college degree, you're more likely to get certain jobs than if you don't. They might not apply in a week. Yeah, we don't know. Like, we have no idea. Like, the ChatGPT thing is like 5 months old at this point, and it's already like changing the world. So who knows what the world will be like in 4 years? Like that's awfully far in the future to predict. But it's like, what else are you going to do, right? The problem of induction is always it's your best guess, and so our best guess is college is still going to be your best bet for advancement in life, right? I want to learn to find my own path and succeed. It's good. Yeah. Now, what's interesting is that a lot of you guys are saying, I want a job, I want a job, I want a job. I'm in college to get a job. And there's a disconnect between what students want and what professors give. Okay? So students want an A, or some students just want a C and to get by with a C. But like most students want to get an A, and they want to graduate, and they want to get a job, right? And most professors don't actually have those as priorities, right? What I want from this class, actually, why don't you guess? What do you guys think that I want from you in this class? What do you think my goal is? Like, if I could wave a magic wand, what do you think my purpose is? Because I don't have to teach this. I'm the head of computer science at a different college. I teach this class at Fresno State mostly for fun. I mean, I do get paid for it. I wouldn't do it for free, but I started teaching it because I missed teaching this class. Why do you think, I'm so passionate about this class, and what do you think I want from you? Yeah, you're absolutely right. I want you to know the knowledge, right? I don't care what grade you get. I mean, if the grade you get is based on the performance you do, and it's just all basically automatically graded, What I want is for the students in this class to come away with the knowledge, and I want you to become critical thinkers so that you go through life using your critical thinking skills admirably, right? Because it's more than just getting a job, right? Like, it's a life, in general, and yeah, all aspects of life. Very good, Mohammed. Like, that's a great way of putting it. And it's getting a job is like one thing, but like, there's, like when you watch the news, right? Like, CNN and Fox both have biases, and if you're a critical thinker, then that makes you better able to understand, the media and what they're trying to say, and politicians and what they're trying to say. Like, I believe this part, I don't believe that part. When you are offered deals in life, some deals are the best deal in the history of deals, And some deals are the worst deal in the history of deals. And your critical thing, and people will try and pressure you. They'll say, oh, you have to sign this today. It's a 24-hour limited time offer. Like when I was trying to put in a water purifying system, like this guy's like, this deal's only good for today. And I'm like, yeah, I'll get back to you. And then after I got an offer from another person, the first guy called me up. He's like, oh, are you going to take the deal? I'm like, I got another deal for $1,000 less. He's like, well, I'll knock $2,000 off the price. And I'm like, okay, yeah. So your 24-hour limited time offer really wasn't your best deal, was it? I didn't say that, but I'm like, okay. And then I take his deal and go to the other guy, and he knocks his down by $2,000. Then I take him, go back, and he knocks his down again. Like originally, he was quoting me like $7,000 for like a whole house water filter, and he ended up going limited time. You have to sign now, or you're gonna lose. You're gonna fear of missing out. You're gonna miss out. It ended up dropping from like 7,000 to like 3,000. And then I still didn't go with him because it pissed me off enough that like I hate it when people like do high pressure techniques like that on me and lie to me essentially, because he's like, this is my bestest, greatest price, and he just kept dropping it over and over again as I kept saying no to him. His bestest, greatest price just kept. Yeah, I don't like that. So, yeah, just something simple like a water filter like that. That's a $4,000 swing. You know what I mean? Like, and I ended up getting no whole house water filter. I ended up just getting a reverse osmosis on my sink, which is under $1,000. So you can't play a player, yeah. But like that's why I got multiple quotes, and then I would send the quotes to the other guys, and all of them, I did that for solar too. I got 3 quotes, and they're like, this is our best price, and then I'm like, yeah, but these guys are cheaper, and it saved thousands and thousands of, like a lot of thousands of dollars for solar, for water purifiers, like anything like that. Home repair, you're going to redo your kitchen or something, like you want to get multiple quotes on it. And so it's just more than just jobs. It's like everything in life, critical thinking will help with. Okay. So now the problem with induction is the reasoning of science, right? Like inductive reasoning is like scientific reasoning. You look at the past, you do your experiments, and then you make predictions about the future. The trouble with it is that, like, as we've seen, every prediction about the future can be wrong, right? And if you think back on like our theories of truth, the most popular theory of truth is correspondence theory, right? And correspondence theory is that which is true is that which is corresponds to reality. And the future, you can't really point to it, right? You can't say like, well, here's the future, so it's true. Like you can't see what's going to happen tomorrow. So there's no way of saying it's true, and so it's nebulous. It's not true. It's not false. It's undetermined yet. And so every time you make a prediction, there's always a chance it could be wrong. So for example, people will say like the sun will come up tomorrow, right? Bet your bottom dollar that tomorrow the sun will rise. And the thing is, one day it's going to be wrong, right? One day the Earth is going to be swallowed by the sun, right? And it's not going to come up. So even something as certain as the sun will rise in the east will be wrong someday, right? It will not always be true. And if you live in Alaska, it might not be true next winter. The sun won't rise, when it's if you're on the North Pole, right? So future is never guaranteed. Yeah, exactly. And the problem is like, all these things we do in science are developed through induction. So everything in science is inherently unreliable. And good scientists will tell you that, right? Like everything in science is subject to revision. If we have a new experiment that comes out, we will falsify the old one, right? This is what we talked about 2 classes ago. Is that everything in science can be falsified if it's scientific. That's the Popper view of science, at least. And so I think it's important to maintain sort of a sophisticated view of science, right? Like a lot of people are like, oh, you should blindly trust science. It's like, no, that's not. That's literally the opposite of how science works, right? Like everything is always kind of provisional. Like the coronavirus is like a great example of it, right? Like a paper from France came out saying that was it ivermectin or what was the drug? Was it ivermectin or chloroquinidine? What was the name of it? Chloroquinidine? Whatever. A paper came out saying that it helps cure COVID-19, right? And then people are like, Trump was instantly like, it's a miracle if you take what's it called? Whatever it's called. Ivermectin was another one of them. And then it's a cure-all. You take it, it's a miracle drug. Get back to work. And then more papers came out, and people tested it repeatedly and found no benefit for COVID-19 on it. And so some people said, well, see, science is unreliable. And it's kind of like, well, it always has, it's never fixed, And so there's this massive debate, especially between the right and the left. It was really interesting to me, where the right was being sort of like science skeptical, right? But at the same time being sort of like incredibly trusting of results that they liked, Trump was like, this particular scientific study in particular, I 100% believe it. And there was this opposite on the left where they're with the masks, and the narrative on the masks changed several times. Fauci said masks don't work, and they do work. And that sort of undermined a lot of the trust we had in our scientific institutions. And it's still kind of playing out today, where there's this, if you measure people's trust in science, it's gone down, in part because the messaging was inconsistent. And people are like, oh, we didn't do a good job messaging. It's no. They deliberately told people masks don't work so they wouldn't buy masks, so there wouldn't be a shortage, which in my mind is inexcusable. That's just not good. Really not good. You shouldn't lie to people. You should just be like, don't buy them. We need them for first responders or whatever. And so, the question of science and trusting science and all this kind of stuff has been a really interesting thing to follow as somebody who studies philosophy of science. I have no horse in the game. I personally don't care either way. It's just interesting to observe this kind of playing out in the media. And what was the name of that drug? Trump touts chloroquine. Yeah, that's it. Hydroxychloroquine. That's it. Yeah. And and then when science comes out with new papers, then people like Tucker Carlson are like, see, you can't trust scientists because new research has come out. But it's that's how research works. Research works by people have a preliminary paper, and then you follow it up with a bigger study. And it's very interesting to watch these different, it's really philosophy of science arguments being made poorly in the media, right? So and so the problem with science, right, the problem is that it's based on inductive reasoning. Inductive reasoning can be wrong. And so a lot of people are like, well, science works, and you can prove that science works by hold up your cell phone and be like, look, if science didn't work, you wouldn't have a cell phone. It's cool. That's engineering, but all right, sure, whatever. So if you're arguing that science works because it works, that's circular. If you're arguing that it works inductively, well, then you can also go back further and be like, all right, go back to the year 1900 and look at how many things we still believe in science from 100 years ago. Now think about how many things that we will believe in 100 years now. That's a question for you guys. Of the things in your science textbooks today, what percentage of them do you think will be survive with essentially, no revision 100 years from now? Right? If you had to put money down on it, right? You got a science textbook. You got, I don't know. Do I have any over here? Yeah, it's in the back corner. That I don't want to reach for it. I got a physics textbook back there. Physics. Got a bio textbook somewhere. Yeah, what percentage is going to survive? Unscathed. All of it? None of it? If we're making reasoning, if we're making predictions about the past, if you look at the percentage of things that survive from 1900, it's 20% maybe. And so if we're inductively reasoning, then you should say, well, 80% of the things that we think are true right now are going to get revised in the future. So how confident should you be in science? After a while, things will be disproven and new things will come out. Yeah. This is called pessimistic meta-induction. Like if you use inductive reasoning to justify science, then you can use inductive reasoning to unjustify science, because if you look at past history, science has been wrong about most things, right? But then that leads to another question, which is like, well, if not science, then what? And there's no great answer to that, right? Like if science is our best guess, what are you going to do instead? Are you going to go with your second best guess? Are you going to go with your worst guess? Like, we don't know the answer. Are there multiple dimensions? Who knows? Maybe. That's like what the Marvel Cinematic Universe is, exploring right now, right? Are there multiple dimensions? Can we travel to them? Nobody knows. Maybe we'll discover it. Maybe we won't. I don't know. You don't know. Nobody knows, right? And so, as long as it's not that you shouldn't trust science, and it's not like there's a better option, right? Science is our best guess towards reality. But yeah, you should always have that sort of nuanced view of like, yes, this is what I believe, but I could be wrong, and that ties in with falsifiability and things like that, right? Every time you read a paper in psychology, you're like, oh, that's really interesting, but it might be wrong. And that ties in with the reproduction crisis, the replication crisis, right? all these papers, especially in psychology and other fields as well, have failed to replicate, right? And so it's a nuanced view that a lot of people have trouble with, right? Where I will believe this, but I could be wrong. And that, to me, is like the essence of critical thinking, right? Realizing you might be wrong. Like being able to being brave enough to be like, yes, I think that the Flynn effect is real, or I think the Blackthorn effect is real, but I could be wrong. That is a nuanced opinion that I think is hard for a lot of people, because a lot of people don't want to be wrong, and so they believe nothing, and that's not good. And then other people just trust everything. These are all absolute truths handed down by God, and that's not good either, because then everything's subject to revision. So people in general don't want to be wrong. Yeah. That's a problem, and I'm more than willing to be proven wrong. In fact, in this class, I think about 3 times in this class, a student has written me an essay like on a quiz question or something like, I think your quiz question is wrong. Here's the evidence supporting it. And I look at it and go like, yeah, you're probably right. And not only do I give them the point on it, I actually have given them a lot of extra credit as well. So if you show me that I'm wrong, like you 3 of you know what I'm talking about. Like I have given extra credit for proving me wrong, because I don't know everything. I don't. Believe it or not, I'm a professor, but like the world's a big, complicated place. So, I don't enjoy being wrong, but if you demonstrate to me that I'm wrong, I've given out extra credit 3 times this semester for doing it. I was wrong in the last midterm. Exactly. Yeah, it happens. Yep. And I mean, I researched the question. Like, don't get me wrong. Like I went to Toronto and went to the Historical Society there, and that's what they told me. Like, this wasn't like just pulled out of my ass. Like this, I bought a book on the sub. Like I did the research on it, and I was still wrong, and that can happen. Okay. Wu-Tang Clan logo is on the scratch. Right. Okay, so let's get to our last topic for today, and this is abductive reasoning. Okay, so abductive reasoning is the reasoning that we've been using whenever I say you should weigh the evidence for and weigh the evidence against. We have a name for that now. That's called abductive reasoning. Never skip ab day at the gym. Never skip abductive reasoning day at the gym, at the critical thinking gym. Okay, so how it works is, this is the reasoning used by police, by detectives, by juries. Like there was the Alex Murdaugh murder case a couple months ago, and basically, this lawyer was convicted of murdering his wife and kid, I think in like an insurance scam or something like that. But like during the trial, people are presenting evidence for it. He takes the stage. He advances an alternative theory, like the people he owed money to or something. I don't know. Murdered his wife and kid instead, and the jury has to sit there and look at all the evidence. Say, okay, here's the evidence for this guy murdering his wife and kid. Here's the evidence against it, and they have to weigh it. And they have to decide beyond a reasonable doubt that he murdered his wife and kid. And so, let's let's see, it's this one, yeah, the Alex Murdaugh case. And so he just got sentenced last month to 2 life sentences in jail. And so the jury had to decide, here's all this evidence. Here's evidence for, here's evidence against. And you have to decide pretty seriously. You have to have a lot of certainty that he was guilty of murder to convict him. And this is what you're going to be doing on your essay. Okay? So what you're going to be doing on your essay is you are going to be investigating a topic that personally you're not invested in. So you can be a little bit more objective on it. And you're going to weigh the evidence for it and weigh the evidence against it and come up with a percentage. Like, I'm 70% confident it's true. I'm 20% confident it's true. Something like that. You're going to have to use deductive reasoning. You're going to have to use inductive reasoning. You're going to have to use abductive reasoning on it. The essay is going to be 4 pages, and it'll be due at the beginning of finals week. So you got time to work on it. And you can investigate any sort of like open topic that you want. And you just have to hit up primary sources as much as you can. Find as many primary sources. Secondary sources are inherently suspect because people have already put their spin on it, and you're going to be like an investigative reporter and do your best to determine the truth of the matter. And I'll let you kind of pick the topic. I'll post some sample topics that I think might be good to investigate, but you can pick your own if you can get 4 pages out of it. Okay. So the BBC Sherlock series, I think, is coming back for another series, which is kind of exciting. One of the things that bugs me about the show, it's a really good show, is that Sherlock in it always says he uses deductive reasoning. He doesn't use deductive reasoning. He uses abductive reasoning. He looks at the scratches on a doorknob and says, okay, the person here probably is a drunkard because when they come home, they're trying to put the key in the door and they keep missing and scratching the keyhole. And that's not deductive reasoning. He doesn't have a premise and a conclusion. And he's not doing any of that. He's weighing the evidence. He sniffs. Let's play a game of deductions. No, you're not playing a game of deductions. You're playing a game of abductions, but nobody knows the words. They use the word deduction. So he like sniffs the hat. He's like, oh, this person works in, a beer factory and whatever, This is your GE paper, yes. So make sure you don't skip this one. You need to do this to get your GE thing. Murdaugh Murder is a Southern Scandal on Netflix. Okay, cool. Yeah, I didn't really follow it that closely, but it just kept showing up on the news. Like I'd turn on CNN or Fox or something, and it kept popping up over and over again. So, in summary, deductive reasoning is the reasoning of logic, right? Valid and invalid sound, you're absolutely certain. Now, sometimes you'll have a valid but not sound argument, and then you get something that's conditionally certain. And this is something that a lot of people don't think about. So, like, if I can prove to you that, like, if there is a zombie outbreak, then the morgue is the best place to stay, that is a conditionally true statement. There isn't a zombie outbreak right now, I hope. Although, maybe if you go to Florida or something. But if there was, then we can kind of take this argument out of our pocket and be like, I have the perfect argument for this. Let's go to the morgue. It's going to be safe. It's a great place to be in a zombie outbreak. Inductive reasoning is looking at the past to argue about the future. And abductive reasoning is you weigh the evidence for something, you weigh the evidence against something, and whichever thing has more weight, that's the thing you believe. If it's perfectly balanced, then you say, I am agnostic on the matter. Now let's practice abductive reasoning with an example from real life. Okay. So a lot of you guys said that you want to go to college to get a job, which is a good reason to go to college. And job prep is, like I said, a reason why a lot of people go to college. College professors, again, we don't really consider ourselves as preparing you for a job. Now, I do look at like what industry does and look at best practices in the computer science industry and teach those tools to my students to prepare them for the real world. I do care about that. Don't get me wrong. But really what we're trying to do is train you how to think and how to become almost a fully armed and operational Death Star that you're willing to go out in the world and learn yourself and succeed and all this kind of stuff. So there's a faster way though. So like if all you're here for is a job, then there's an alternative. There are these companies called boot camps that in the Bay and we're going to run through this. So I want you guys participating on this. There are these boot camps in the Bay Area that you go there, you live there, you essentially live in a bunk bed in a dorm, with a bunch of other people for 6 months, and they will teach you computer science, or not computer science. They teach you web dev and things like that. They teach you kind of like low-level skills in computer science, how to do web pages, how to do JavaScript, this kind of stuff. And then they will guarantee you that they will get you a job in the Bay Area. In exchange for that, you have to give them a quarter of your salary for 2 years. So this is what I mean by, like, in the real world, critical thinking skills matter. So what questions do you ask them? This is the offer that's made to you. Like I said, sometimes you're going to get deals offered to you. Sometimes they're going to be the best deal in the history of trade deals. Sometimes they're going to be the worst deal in the history of trade deals. And you need to use your critical thinking skills. And I am blurry now. Okay, perfect. So I am, what questions do you ask? How are you going to live in the Bay Area giving a quarter of your salary away? That's a good question. I am blurry. What's going on here? There we go. All right. I don't know. And you're going to be living in a bunk bed for the first 6 months. But that's a great question. Yeah. How do you expect me to survive? How can they guarantee they get you a job? That's a great question as well. They will tell you they have contacts throughout the Bay Area, and they guarantee that they will place you with a company. What type of job will be offered? Like web dev, low-end kind of computer science positions. What else? This is your life. You're signing away a quarter of yourself. So, you don't just jump into something like this. Read the contract first, right? Like, you want to, use your abductive reasoning skills. Weigh the evidence for it, weigh the evidence against it, whether or not you should take the job. How much will you get paid? $100,000 a year, maybe, but it just depends on the job that they get you. Yeah, about 100 on average, let's say. 60 to 100, maybe. What are the benefits? Things on the side? Yeah, some of the job placements have benefits, sure. Absolutely. What are the working conditions of the jobs? You're just an employee at Square or something like that. It's great. It's a great working condition. It's amazing. You have your own cubicle and everything. How many opportunities for climbing up the company's ladder? It's up to you. They place you at the company in a starting position. It's up to you to climb the corporate ranks. What kind of questions should you ask? Should you take the deal? What do you think? Got 2 more people typing right now. Only for 2 years. After that, you're on your own. They take a quarter of your income. So essentially, for 6 months of training, they're going to take probably about $50,000 of your salary. Probably need to read the full contract. Okay. How much time are you expected to work? It's full time. Yeah. All good questions, but kind of not getting at the right things, in my opinion. Which is, you want to talk to somebody who's been through the program, right? Because this is an actual case study of some student that came to me with this deal, and I worked him through it. And, I was like, we need to talk to people who've finished the program. We need to, see exactly what the contract is specifying, all this kind of stuff. And I told him eventually not to take it. Like, this thing kind of sounds like a scam to me. And he ended up taking the deal anyway. And they did not place him in the company. And he found his own job, and then they still wanted to take a quarter of his salary. And so, yeah, kind of scammy, So, but everything worked out for him. So everything's fine now. I know, right? Everything worked out for him. Like, everything's going great now. But like, it was definitely like sketch, and that was, in real life. Like, I was like, all right, let's critical thinking this. Let's see Let's see who's gone through the program. Let's see what kind of jobs they've gotten. Let's look at the contract and see what you're on the hook for. What if they can't place you? And it turned out kind of to be a scam, but at the same time, he kind of made it work out. So I don't know. I don't know what to tell you. So I personally wouldn't take it either, but he didn't want to be in college for another, 2 years at that point. So, 6 months instead of 2 years, you'd start working, and he's making more money than me now because you have to be kind of an idiot to be a computer science professor. So, if you're smart, you don't go into computer science professorships, I think. So yeah, like I said, like all these things that I'm teaching you guys in real life, I care about it a lot because these are the skills you need for life. People will come to you, and I've been hosed before on contracts, trusting too much, for example. It happens, and it's one of those things where like the better you are at critical thinking and asking questions and getting evidence and weighing the evidence, the better off you're going to be in life. Okay. So thank you. I appreciate that, Jim. It means a lot to me. 895 subscribers on YouTube. Yes. I actually have like one person from like Florida sign up for my class. So I guess that counts for something. I got the one person remotely buying my class. Okay. Anyway, we're 5 minutes over. Thank you guys all for coming out. I appreciate you all as well. And I will see you guys on Wednesday, where we will continue our journey into programming. All right. See you guys later. Bye.